start with a contentious topic.
Yes. Yes, pineapple on pizza and all the ways that you can make potatoes. We can talk about that. I'm pretty flexible. So hi everybody. We had some cancellations tonight. Apparently there was like bursting pipes and all kinds of stuff going on for people today. So I lost 3 people. 2 are MIA. So we are down to Mandisa, which is fine because she's brilliant. I'm okay with that. And then Purple jumped in because Purple's awesome and sweet. And yeah.
Thanks.
So that's where we're at. So I personally am horrible with history. I just came here to run the stream. So, Mandisa, why don't you tell me like your top favorite thing of women in history that people don't know, or you think people might not know?
Well, as it is Black History Month, I am definitely going to have to speak from that point of view.
Right.
If you aren't familiar with Ida B. Wells, who was a journalist and an activist after the Reconstruction period, she was actually on the committee to start the NAACP. And actually, she was one of the first women to challenge Jim Crow laws, segregation laws in court, because she booked a first class ticket. I have to look up where it was, but she booked a first class ticket and she was ordered to move, and she was actually thrown off the train, and she sued the train. You know, she sued the railroad company. I mean, and she won initially. Now the decision was reversed on appeal, unfortunately, but like years before the Montgomery bus boycott, and years before the civil rights movement actually got started, this was a Black woman who in the South actually sued because she was thrown off of a railroad. You know, she was forcibly removed from her seat that she paid for.
Right.
And so, and this was at a time where, and she was also a very active anti-lynching journalist and an anti-lynching activist. So, you know, for those who aren't familiar with her, I highly recommend doing some research on Ida B. Wells.
Okay, cool. I put a link for her it's a short biography kind of deal.
Yeah.
On her. That's on YouTube. I threw that in the chat. So
cool.
I'm going to go back and check that out too. I'd never heard of her before. And you said, what were the years that all this happened?
You know, I'm gonna go to Google right now myself, because I remember, you know, this was back in the 1800s.
Wow. So she was way ahead.
Way ahead of her time.
Way ahead.
Yes, definitely ahead of her time with that. And so I think it's important for people to know that, you know, that especially when it comes to Black history and Black resistance, it definitely did not start with the civil rights movement. It started before that. Even
well, yeah, I mean, you gotta have those random people that are spread out and they're all thinking, this is it, I'm fed up, and then that starts a chain reaction, and then you get to when everybody say something. You know, you always have those people in the beginning that you don't hear of, you know. So
yeah, so the incident took place on May 4th, 1884, with the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad. And they ordered her to give up her first class seat and move to the smoking car. And yep. And so and at the time
that lady said, "Oh hell no."
Yep. Yep. And at that time it was, you know, it had banned racial discrimination. Of course it came back around, but you know, they at the time segregation was illegal.
Right.
So, but yeah, they chose to try to you know, they chose to try to enforce that anyway. And yeah,
right.
She took it to court.
It's awesome. That is awesome. So,
Yeah,
Wait,
that's the
just-
problem, that a lot of times, even if they make the laws, if somebody doesn't challenge them and somebody gets penalized for it, they don't enforce them.
that's true.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's so funny because I remember growing up always seeing the trains Chesapeake, Ohio, because I was over in like Virginia and then West Virginia and Ohio, and there's always history behind something if you just look hard enough.
Yeah, and there's a lot of ugly history behind a lot of old companies and a
Yep.
lot of old organizations that many would prefer, be kept quiet, but no, we're in the age now where, you have to actually, talk about this.
Absolutely.
And that's still the whole problem we have with, the whole Confederate flags and how the Civil War is taught in the South, because there's still a lot of that history people don't want to admit to.
Well, that is my thing right there, Purple. I was saying that the other day on Twitter to Cynthia. I said, people just need to admit it. I mean, do you know how many problems it causes just lying about anything in your life? Never mind big things. I mean, why lie about it? Everybody knows the fucking truth.
Well, even a little lie, the longer you hold on to it, the harder it gets.
It gets worse and worse, and then it snowballs and avalanches, and then you have a bunch of pile of shit. But just if they just would admit it and just say, you know what, we screwed up. We should do something about. That's all they have to do. That's it.
Yeah.
It's like pulling hen's teeth.
Yeah, that would be a huge thing, is if everyone would just acknowledge it happened, and even to say, okay, that was before I was born, but yeah, my grandparents were around and there was some really dicey shit going on.
Yep.
And I think that's like one of the most important aspects to this. It's like, we're not asking for, people to outright just, like give us anything. Just the acknowledgement is important. To try to act like it didn't exist is a really shitty thing to do.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's a bit of a history for, both Black and women's history. Uh-oh.
Did B freeze on us?
Yes, I think he did. I think he did freeze on us.
Yeah, so. Having some connection problems.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, there's Robert X. Robert X is in the side chat. B had mentioned about seeing if he could get in here, but wasn't sure if he could do it tonight.
Okay.
He's on the other side of the pond, but he's someone who's basically always checked me anytime I've tried to do a historical thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Mostly the stuff we've run into has been about World War II history.
Oh, okay. I actually visited the is that the World War I or World War II Museum in Kansas City? I think it's World War I.
Yeah, I've never been there, so I don't know which one that is.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting. I think it was more focused on World War I. They had the bit on like the Archduke Ferdinand and the assassination there. There you go.
That was just weird. I was talking away and it just boom, and my whole screen said reload. What the hell just happened? Anyways, continue. I'm sorry.
Oh no, we happened to get on the subject of World War II, and I was saying that I had visited the I think it was World War I museum in Kansas City.
Okay.
Yeah. And my angles.
Mm-hmm.
My angle's often been more on the technology development, but of course, technology never advances faster than during a major war.
Mm-hmm.
Fact.
And especially in regard to the navies.
Yes.
That's not what I meant to do. Yeah. Anybody that's coming on here, if you guys want to come in and join in, since I lost some people, I have plenty of room, and the link's up above if you want to scroll up in the chat.
Oh,
so
yeah. Robert X is in the side chat, but he says it's already 1 a.m. where he is. So
I know it's sad. I'd love to get in some history talk with him. He's brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that's
Anyways,
sometimes
carry
when
on
I'm
what
running
you
my
guys saying.
midnight show, he comes in, because he's getting up for breakfast then before I'm going to bed.
Oh, he comes in joins you for breakfast. Well, that's nice. That's nice. Yeah, that's really tough with some of these people I would love to talk to, but with working during the day, my morning is their evening, and then by the time I get home, it's 1, 2 a.m. by the time I start streaming. So, yeah, it sucks.
I've basically made it known to everybody I know in real life that on Thursdays I'm on Australian time.
You're on Australian time. Absolutely.
Because I've got a couple of people over there that if I want to coordinate anything with.
It's interesting. I just I'll be speaking with the Humanist Australia, their community. It'll be for them. It'll be March 23rd, and for me, it'll still be March 22nd.
Right. Okay.
So, and Australia is on my bucket list to visit. I absolutely do want to visit there.
I was trying to. Cynthia was telling me about a Black woman in history that she really admired, and I'm trying to find her. And I read something. She was just amazing, and I just can't remember her name to save my soul from hell. But I wanted.
Do you remember exactly, or do you remember approximately what it was that she was famous for? I might be able to tell you who it was.
Well, we were talking about NASA. Let me type NASA in.
Mae Jemison? Dr. Mae Jemison?
Possibly, although I think I saw that name when I was looking up. Oh, Mary Jackson.
Okay.
Yeah, Mary Jackson. There was Mary Jackson, Katherine Johnson, and Dorothy Vaughan all worked together, and they started out in 1962.
Okay, that sounds like the Hidden Figures story.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. And that's really what started all this, because there's so many things that not only women but Black women did that men said, "Oh, look what we did," and there's a white guy standing up there taking all the credit. They're snapping pictures of him. He's signing autographs. He's making more money. And then the people in the back room that they hid, and for people that don't know, that's actually how tech started out. Hi, Maya. That's actually how tech started out. They were just starting to play with it, and they considered it like an administration position, because there were lots of notations and stuff they had to do. So they had all these women started, and then it started getting somewhere, and it started looking like it was going to be something. And the men said, "Oh, wait,
right,
you do that," and they took it away from them. And after that, it just went crazy. But a lot of people don't know that there was a huge handful of women. They were, it was like a secretarial kind of position to them. It was, you sit behind a desk and you write stuff, so they weren't going to do that.
Yeah.
So
well, and many people today aren't actually aware that computer, rather than being a machine, used to be a job title.
Really?
And that was a position that was primarily held by women. And well, this also goes into the NASA thing about the math and that it was primarily by women, especially like during World War II, since all the able-minded men were off to war. The women did the biggest part of the code breaking, doing all the calculations for that.
Yes.
So those were the military computers, were the women who were doing the maths to try and break the enemy codes.
Yeah, it was someone who computed. They were a computer. That's awesome.
Wow.
I never thought about the base of that word, the root. I never even didn't even ever dawn on me. That's amazing. Well, that's like the way. Speaking of code breakers, they use the Native Americans
Uh-huh.
back
Yeah.
in the day.
The Navajo.
Yes, exactly. It was a Navajo.
And that's why the Japanese could never break our code, because they always assumed that somehow it was going to pattern back into English.
Yep. And it absolutely did not. They actually have some awesome movies about that. You guys should check that out.
Yeah, Wind Talkers was a good one.
Oh, look, IB Late is here.
Hi.
Oh,
you
Jenny,
doing?
I love you. How are you?
I'm okay. How's everybody else?
Good.
Good. Did you fall in?
Uh-huh.
Was it a big poop?
No, I just got stuck.
You just got stuck. Okay, that's good. Yes, Nels, Wind Talkers is actually, that's what I was thinking, but I wasn't sure if it was correct. I didn't want to open my mouth and look like an idiot. I do that enough normally. I don't know. So, Jenny,
Yeah.
I was just asking these two wonderful people about, of course, the topic is women in history. Is there any particular person, female, in history that you can look at and say that was an amazing person? Well, or your favorite? It's probably more than one.
Yeah, there are. There's lots and lots of women who are absolutely unbelievably powerful and have done marvelous things. You know, there's so many that we've never heard of who I am terrible at names, and so I forget myself. But I don't know. These days, I think the women who I'm most proud of are all the women who are the leaders and, shall we say, stormtroopers of the suffragettes 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
They really kicked butt, and they went back over and over, time after time from defeat, and eventually did some good. You know, they definitely have had made some major mistakes, but overall, I think it was a very good thing.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, we were just talking about the women that were in NASA, the women that were whose jobs were to compute, so they were computers.
Mm-hmm.
God, there's so many. Like it blow. I try to think of one topic, but there's so many things that comes into my head. It just makes me stumble. There's just so much of it.
Okay, well, I'm not sure which direction to go now, but since you were talking about the women's suffrage, of course, you have to mention Susan B. Anthony was actually jailed for voting.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, there were lots and lots of people jailed. In the suffragettes in the UK, they were every bit as tough and brave as the women in America. They actually got violent and started blowing shit up and spent time in prison and hunger strikes, and they invented ways of protest that are still with us today that didn't exist before that.
Really? Do you know what those are?
Well, hunger strikes were one of the big ones. They went on hunger strikes. Nobody had ever dealt with that before. The public relations repercussions from that, as these women are starving in prison, were just too powerful for the police and the courts and the officials to tolerate, and so they had to let them go. You know, they were arresting women at protests and things like this, and they had to let them go.
Wow.
Yeah, because nobody wanted to have the stigma of saying that they had died on their watch.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah.
And some did. You know, that there's women who gave their lives for suffrage.
It's amazing. Yes, Theo, that's how I feel. Too many good people to name all.
Yep.
Such an incredibly long list.
And speaking of Susan B. Anthony, Ida B. Wells also worked alongside her.
Mhm.
The women's suffrage movement, and of course, even back then, it was like, well, there were definitely some challenges between, with I'm reading up some more on the dismissal of Black women in the women's suffrage movement.
That's one of those big mistakes I was mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if we wanted to get into that direction tonight, but
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
you are right. The women's suffrage movement in the United States did Black women of America just a horrible,
Mm-hmm.
horrible disservice, and it still hurts us today.
Mm-hmm.
In the relationship between feminists and Black women.
Yeah. And Black women have always been at the forefront of feminism.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
yes.
And one of the things, as a society, why do we just have to keep fighting the same battles over and over for different groups of people?
Because
why can't we just...
People don't seem to learn. People don't
Yeah.
seem to learn their lesson. I mean, oh my gosh.
Why can't we just get the idea you treat everybody the same? Why is that complicated?
Yeah, what complicates things is greed, power, or want for power. It's unfortunate that these things, tend to get in the way of, and then of course the idea that, some people are less than, so they don't deserve to be equal. And this
Yeah.
is a thing that this is something that has been passed down through, unfortunately, generations, and it just it just continues to circle back around, and it's really unfortunate.
Well, and the sad part is a lot of politicians actively promote that because it suits
Mhm.
their agenda better to keep people divided.
Yeah.
They realize that, like, if all the working class people voted as a single block and ignored race and religion, the millionaires would be screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, they would. If we all got together, we could do some serious damage and change some shit. But that's the whole point. I think that's why Trump was in office. I think he was there to divide. That was his whole purpose, and he did a really good job
definitely.
at it. Yeah. That's why I think they got him in. They knew he was an asshole. They knew he could play the part they wanted him to play. And he came in there and he did it. He did it.
Well, and even before Trump, the Republicans had been working for some time, with the religious fundamentalists and trying to stir people up that, they're going to destroy Christianity. And this is a Christian nation, and they're going to take it all away from you.
Oh yeah, and they're going to take your guns too. That's what Democrats and liberals and and independents, we all just want to take guns from everybody. That's what we're going to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's time to start telling the conservatives, you've been saying that lie for 30, 40 years, and there hasn't been a single gun taken yet. So when are you going to give it up? it's just not. It's not real.
Yeah. But if they keep that alive, that division remains. They want. It's like after George Floyd, and everybody started protesting and going out, and there was white people running down the streets breaking shit. Like, what the fuck are you doing right now? I mean, you have every city, thousands and thousands of people peacefully just marching down the streets, and then you get a handful of people destroying shit just because, we can. This is a good time to do it. Nobody's gonna catch us. I don't even know why. Just to make it worse, to make everybody that was protesting look like a bunch of assholes. That's all it was.
And for most of the country, that's kind of being pushed in the background now. But the protests are still going on. In Portland, there are still protests every weekend.
Good.
I've got a friend out there who's been participating in those. So I kind of worry about her.
Yeah, I actually wanted to do another BLM stream because I haven't done one in a while. And the whole point is to get people's attention and get them to learn stuff. to open their freaking minds. So I need to do another one. I was trying to get people together before, and then it didn't happen. The timing was bad. So maybe we can do another one of those soon. And obviously, man, DC, you're absolutely invited. You know more than I could ever begin to.
Oh my gosh, what do I know? No, I'm just kidding. But
a lot. So your organization, speaking of which, I was going to ask you earlier, and I thought I'd wait till I was on stream with you. Do you guys have like one base, or is there several places you guys are based out of in the U.S., or how are you guys doing with that?
We are headquartered in the Atlanta area. You know, I'm in the Atlanta, Georgia area.
Okay.
And we now have active affiliates in New York City, which is my hometown, Washington, D.C., Charlotte, North Carolina, Richmond, Virginia, and Detroit, Michigan.
Nice.
We had other affiliates, but of course, due to COVID and just usual organizational stuff,
right?
We're in a process of restructuring a bit. And but yeah, we do have affiliates across, in various cities. So yeah, and our main purpose has been to bring, increase the awareness and increase the community and representation of Black atheists, and not just our visibility, but also, providing that community support for those who need it, and providing a platform for content creators, writers, other activists. So there's a whole thing that we do, and also in working with other organizations.
Right, which is very important.
Yeah, and so of course, Black Lives Matter is a given to us.
Obviously.
Right. And it's like you can't talk about, the issues that face the Black community without discussing the white supremacy elements and racist elements of Christianity.
Absolutely.
And this is absolutely important to the conversation. When we talk about racial justice, when we talk about activism and Black activism, the history of it, that is absolutely important to the conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's the problem, is there's just not enough people. People are so wrapped up in presidencies and COVID and just everything else that, we get distracted by the latest news coming out, and we forget. And I don't want people to forget. I don't want people to forget George Floyd or any of them. Of them. It doesn't even have to be George Floyd, just any of them.
Yeah, Breonna Taylor.
The more people forget, the less impact it has. We got to remind people, unfortunately, I wish that we didn't have to do that,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is a little off topic, but I'm just thinking, God, you must have it really difficult as an atheist in the Black community, with the church being such a powerful force, historically and currently.
It's a challenge for a number of reasons. Well, one, because yes, we are still, our numbers are still small, and there's a recent study by Pew that was just released last week, in which it's still about 79% of the Black community is still very highly religious, which is on par with the numbers that it has been previously. So the rise, the numbers of the religiously unaffiliated is growing, but as far as those who actually identify as atheists are still pretty low. And I was like, oh my gosh, I almost felt like, what are we doing this for? But it was, I had a chance to preview the study before it was released, so we are getting on their radar.
Good.
But yes, it can be a challenge. Because institutionally and as far as a community, religion has been so ingrained within the Black community that it is very, very hard to, let go of it and overcome it. And there are some people who are so disenchanted with the church and their experience that, it is really, really hard to heal from that. and and we see it. It is much more of it is very much more of a challenge to be Black atheist and a Black woman atheist,
Oh yeah.
for sure.
Oh yeah, I bet. I've had a lot of friends that have lived in the South, and most of them either agnostic or atheist, and they talk about how hard it is just to deal with people, because people are always bringing religion into every conversation, and they're sitting there going, "No, I don't want to. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to sit here and praise God with you. I don't believe." But if you voice that, I feel like it goes in any community in the South. It's so religious down there that, you're going to be shunned by somebody.
It's interesting. Yeah.
And for it to be so ingrained in the Black community, I mean, that must be like 8 to 10 times worse. It has to be. Just to deal with that.
It is definitely more challenging and more of a it is definitely more of an uphill battle. I remember at my old job, there were a couple of women there who, I always get that, you look familiar. I get that familiar face thing. And a couple of ladies were like, did I see you in church? And one of them was like, 'cause that's where I spend all my time. And I was like, ugh.
Sorry about that for you.
Yikes. And I said, wow, I'm like, for the fact that you, depending on the size of your church, the fact that you probably didn't even remember that, or you couldn't point that out, it's just very, very interesting. But I was just like, wow, you spend all your time in church. Ugh.
Isn't that has always struck me as odd. There's those people exist in the white bread community too, and it's just so silly. How can you do that to yourself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and many of your southern towns, I mean, churches is it is definitely a part of just everyday life. And the Black churches, though, it's more definitely. It's, to me, I consider it more of a spectacle. It's definitely like a fashion show. And historically, it's because it was one of the places where Black folks were allowed to get dressed, in their best. Because having been relegated to, your domestic work, that was one of the best that was one of the places where you could shine. But it has become just this fashion show over the years, and a competition of who can outdress each other. And to me, it's absolutely ridiculous.
I can agree with that.
Yeah. Then you spend all day in there. I remember the few times that I went to church with my grandmother. I wasn't formally raised religious, but my mother would let me go to church with my dad's mom if I wanted to. And we were there all day. I was like, oh my gosh. And we took the church, but the van there. So I couldn't leave. I couldn't ask anyone to pick me up.
Right.
I was like, oh my gosh. And she went to one of those apostolic churches where they shouted and did all that carrying on. And I was like, wow.
Yeah, I went to one of those. I tell you, it was a good time, but man, they got crazy. But the food afterwards was amazing. They had a spread of food out back and just fed everybody that came on Sundays. And my friend took me because I was trying to check out other religions and try to find something that I would connect with, because I was raised Catholic and I just didn't connect. So I had this friend named Adam, and he was a little mixed kid. He was a little cutie, and he was like, "Oh, my aunt goes to this. Let's go." So we went with her, and I was like, "Oh, hell no. Shit's crazy. Like, the food's great, but you guys are nuts, standing on their seats and hollering and all kinds of shit." So yeah.
And I went to a cultural center, like a Black cultural center. We did a lot of African dance. It was definitely more of a program and more educational, though. The stuff I saw at the church was just like, wow, I had to stop myself from like laughing out loud because it was kind of funny.
Right.
But I was like, wow, this is so weird. So yeah, I don't have like that Black church experience to the point where I can certainly appreciate some of the, the music that has come from, and the architecture that has come from like religious, like the churches over the years and stuff. But I'm like,
Absolutely.
it isn't something that I just pay homage to. PBS just aired a 2-part series on the Black church last week. And actually, Dr. Anthony Penn was a guest, and I didn't know that. If you aren't familiar with him,
I was going to ask.
Yeah, he's a professor at Rice University. He is a humanist, and he used to serve on the board for the American Humanist Association. And he's a former pastor, former minister, but he is an atheist now, and he's written quite a few books. And he does challenge humanists on their racist tendencies and how to be more involved in like racial justice issues and other social justice issues outside of church-state separation.
Right.
So, and I say that, I clarify that because there are so many people who equate social justice simply to racial justice, and that isn't true. What we do is all in the realm of social justice.
Right.
But there are certain aspects of social justice that that some people don't seem to be, they don't think is as important as others.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's just it's all just such a tangled web,
It is.
It's so many. Yeah, it just goes in so many directions. I think that's why people can stay on here like every week. People can come on here and do a stream and talk, because there's just so much to talk about.
Uh-huh.
It's almost never ending because there's been so much bullshit going on for so long. So,
yeah,
you'd have to talk about it every day for the same amount of time to talk about what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Hundreds of years.
Another woman who's always been a fan of mine for about the last 30, 40 years is Mother Jones. Any of you know her? She's not just a magazine title.
Okay.
She's a real person, Mother Mary Jones.
I'm familiar with the magazine. Is that actually connected?
Yeah, it's named after Mother Mary Jones. She was a labor organizer.
Yeah.
Dealt quite heavily with the coal miners and such of the turn of the century and that sort of thing. In one of its most violent times, she was out there, became a major voice. Men cowered at her presence, and she just kicked butt labor-wise. Had many successes. There's actually quite a monument to her where she's buried in Mount Olive, Illinois. If anybody's ever around there, to stop by and see it. Talks about some of the riots and things that she was doing, and all the hundreds and hundreds of miners that were killed by their employers back in those days when that was legal.
Yeah.
But she's just somebody I've always respected because of her activity and her apparent inability to step down. She fought till she was very old and frail, and that's why she was Mother Mary Jones, because she was an old woman and still out there.
Yeah, it says here she was born in 1837, and in 1897 she was a school teacher and dressmaker, became a prominent union organizer, community organizer, and activist. She helped coordinate major strikes and co-founded the Industrial Workers of the World.
Yep.
Wow.
That's her.
I'm not a humanitarian. I'm a hellraiser. Sit down and read, educate yourself for the coming conflicts. That's two of her famous quotes. That's great. See, I didn't even know about her. That's what I was telling Mandisa. There's so many people you just don't even hear about. It's just so much in history. Go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't really know about her, even though I am familiar with the mining strikes, because that's actually both sides of my family wound up being here and being miners in the Iron Range in northern Michigan.
Right.
Well, I wish I knew more about her. I have to admit that I have not put the time into women's studies and learning more. And I've always detested learning dates and names and all that kind of stuff for history class.
Yeah.
School just trained me to hate that. I wish I didn't feel that way, because I see now it's much more important to understand history.
Well, I love history, but I have a horrible memory for the names and dates.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm a history buff as well, and I can definitely remember. I try to make it a point to remember names and dates and such, because that is important to it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But
See,
yeah,
I'm horrible with that too. I can read about somebody and be like, "Oh my god, that's great, that's amazing," and then I'll forget a week later. I don't remember
Yeah.
their name anymore. It's
Well,
just not.
it'll come up in a conversation, and I can bring up the string of events, but I won't remember the names.
Right. Yeah, that's part of the problem I have. I'll remember something about them, but what's their name? I don't know what their name is. Like, so I can't even discuss it. There was this lady. She was really cool.
Yep.
Way back when. That's all I remember. Yeah.
I followed the careers of some women who are on the national level completely obscure, but on the state level and local level of where I grew up in Milwaukee were quite prominent. I always think of Val Phillips, who started out political life as merely an alder person, and eventually got up to the point of being named circuit court judges and leaders of the party, and was a thorn in the side of every segregationist bastard in the state for decades. I honestly don't know if she's still alive. Last I talked with her was, oh God, well, it was in the 90s, late 90s. So I think it was late 90s. Oh, I'm just not remember. I'm remembering the event, just not the year. But anyways, she was a dynamo, and I always enjoyed her because she just scared the hell out of the men again, and they didn't know how to deal with her and her power and her consistent coming back and doing it again every time. She was great.
Yeah, Theo, I have that problem too. It's really weird. I can remember numbers, random numbers, license plates, stuff like that for days. But if you want to remember a date out of history, it just
Yeah.
I guess I'm just not born to be a history buff. I
I can remember a
can't do
whole
it.
bunch of mathematical constants, but just not dates.
Yeah, see? I can remember numbers all day. I can tell you that a couple weeks ago when I did the stream that started up the DAH, that was a 3 hour and 48-minute stream. I can remember that, but I can't remember dates in history or anything. I just can't. I wish I could.
So we all have our areas where we specialize.
Right. Facts.
Another woman that I've learned about as an adult that I certainly was not taught in school with American history was President Woodrow Wilson's wife, when he was in his second term and had his stroke and was pretty much incapacitated completely. She basically ran the United States.
Yeah.
For I think it was 2 years, 3 years, and nobody knew.
She should have did that while he was in office, especially with him basically, with him giving his, lack of a better word, blessing of the movie that was now known as Birth of a Nation. He showed it in the White House and praised it.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah, that was a pretty stupid move on his part.
So many dumb men in history. I'm telling you.
And there's a good documentary on Amazon Prime which talked about the black activists at the time who protested the viewings, in particular in Boston. And just they protested the screening of it. because it was, of course, it was horribly racist. And but yeah, he basically sanctioned that movie.
How's everyone doing? Hi.
Look at
Hi.
that.
Hello.
We have a Trish.
Hey, Will.
How's it going, Purple? Hi, Jenny. Nice to
Hi.
meet you, Medusa. How's it
Nice
going?
to meet you too.
Mandisa.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Okay.
Sorry, I have
Yes.
I have a West Coast accent, so it kind of I slur. It's my dude, bro, West Coast accent. I slur everything out.
Okay, Trish, I have not been introduced to yet.
Hi, I'm.
Oh
Trish.
yeah, so we got Purple up in the corner there, and then Jenny, I be late. And that's Will down there in the middle, Mandisa up top, and then Trish. So thanks guys for coming. We're just talking about women in history, Black history, since it's Black History Month. Any of that stuff you want to talk about? That's we're just talking about all that.
You know,
So if
I
you
heard
got
you
somebody
guys.
like
heard
your
you guys-
favorite person you want to throw in from history, toss it in there. That's how I'm starting everybody out.
Where I put all my stuff away. I actually, I have my grandmother was from Savannah, Georgia, and she was a born slave, and she lived to be 97 years old, I think. She died in 1958, or like I have her birth certificate, death certificate, all the records and everything. And I'm fortunate because there was somebody, well, actually multiple people that earned PhDs tracing the bloodline of my family. So like we took blood tests in the 80s. There's somebody with the exact same name as me who's a professor at Ohio State University. So I know a little bit too much about my family because people did the legwork. So when I say things, it's not just off the top of my head. It's people that I that are accredited.
Nice.
I don't want to dox myself too much, but I think it's important to also highlight the progression of people in the generations from starting as slavery and people such as myself, who like, and it's not something from working hard, but I own a house, and it's because of those people. It's because those people lived that I'm here, and we still have miles to go, but there are people who died and suffered so I could be here.
Absolutely.
And that's something I constantly have to remind myself of, because I during the pandemic, I've just kind of sat around, I'm not necessarily comfortable, but I'm okay, but I constantly have to remind myself that there's people in my family that still live in Yamacraw Village in Savannah, Georgia, that still, haven't come above the poverty line. And that's generational. And I think that's something that needs to be pointed out. And it's something that we forget, that when we talk about institutionalized racism, it's something that is so normalized. We walk past it every day. It's in our lives. And some people, don't even realize it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the layman interpretation, but it's, I've recently ran into a few issues. Because the last, I grew up in the suburbs, and so the last time I had to stick up for my race, I was a kid. So there's a couple of subjects I'll step away from now, because for me, it's more passionate. It turns into like, it's less sense and me just coming at somebody raw, like, well, let me tell you how I really feel.
And that's why I don't have you and Cynthia on at the same time, Will. I can't have two people ranting that much. One ranter per stream. So Trish, who's your favorite woman in history?
I would say like if related to kind of Black History Month, that kind of like, I don't know, always like close to my heart because it deals with education. Like Ruby Bridges, I did like, I know this sounds really lame, but I did a project on her, and I just thought it was so cool how like she made like for like a small girl, she made such a big impact for African Americans in today's society. And I'm trying to think who else I don't really, it's really bad. Like I don't really I like British history. So like
Oh, that's okay. Go for it.
Like Queen Elizabeth and things like that. But like I can't think of anybody in like today's time like that I really like look up to. Like I used to be a big fan of Laura Bush. Did you know she's actually a registered Democrat? Like
Really?
George Bush's wife? Yeah, she's a registered Democrat.
How about that?
So,
Very
so
interesting.
this might get me canceled, but because of my dad, I actually met the second Bush who shakes hand like a noodle, and they're real people. They'll talk to you. They'll look you in the eyes. So I think the Bush's politics are terrible. They're depending on where you live, they're some of the worst people that walk this earth. But
well,
if
they
you
had
live
to follow Daddy.
I agree with you. But if you walked up to George Bush at a gas station, which he'd be pumping his own gas in his truck, he'd talk to you. Like, so that's one thing. You couldn't do that to Trump or, people that were, you know what I'm saying?
Don't bring him up.
Yeah.
Don't bring him up.
Yeah, we're not talking about him again. We're done with him.
I respect people who are real people, who are who they say they are. Because at the end of the day, like we have to live with each other.
Well, speaking of Black history, it's one of the reasons I like Obama. You can find videos of him everywhere where he just bumps into people. He's hiking up a trailer. He's playing basketball as people come up, and he'll just jump in with them.
So
he doesn't care. He's just a real dude, man.
I completely forgot about Michelle Obama.
For when I make bad purchases online, because I need an adult in the room. So I have Obama staring at me.
Well, and that's like Jimmy Carter.
I
thought Jimmy Carter was ineffective as a president, but I've been really impressed with him since then.
Absolutely.
I've heard the same thing.
He is just that, he's real people. He gets right in there, and he's literally, with his own two hands, working to build houses for people who can't afford them.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Did you not know that he's involved with Habitat for Humanity?
No, I didn't know.
No.
Oh, that's been one of his big causes since he's
and Rosalind Carter has been at his side all this time with Habitat for Humanity as well.
Yeah.
Since we're not talking about men in history.
Yes, we'll move on from that.
It's really funny that. Sorry, I'll say this really quick.
You can go into men as long as this has to do with Black History Month.
No, I pulled out my Kareem Abdul-Jabbar book, and I'm having to look for women in history because there's so many men that he talks about in history. So it's kind of disappointing. I'm gonna have to go find another book. I have a Bell Hooks book on feminism, but I don't feel like fighting anybody right now. So
yeah. Well, I did. Y'all missed where I talked about Ida B. Wells.
Oh, okay.
One of my heroines.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
If anyone wants to check any of these people they've talked about out that I could catch fast enough, I put links to, different stuff, YouTube or whatever up in the stream. So you guys are welcome to scroll back up and find it.
So far, it's like Harriet Tubman and Emma and Emmett Till's mother.
Yeah. There's so many more.
That's what I'm saying. That's why. But Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he, I think he was kind of aiming it towards a certain, group of people. It's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I was thinking about what happened to Texas this past week, and Beyonce donated so much to Houston, and I think it's really great that she's given back to the third ward enough this past week. And I think it's really awesome. AOC came to Texas, came to Houston, and actually donated her time and raised I think they raised $2 million.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think she's she's big on doing, she's big on doing humanitarian work in the Houston area.
Yep. And, Houstonian. I'm from Houston, so
okay.
I'm I live in the Heights, and yeah. It's kind of been a shit show.
Well, how are you managing down there with all the power and water outages?
We got water back on Saturday, and then we got power back on Thursday, but we didn't live in my apartment because the pipe burst.
And someone else who had a burst pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm pregnant, so
wow.
so I can't leave you livable. It's not livable. It is now. They did some stuff today, but it's a slow but steady, race to get it done.
Yeah. I've heard that from a lot of people down in Texas, and there's going to be just massive cleanup. Just to get all of these houses and apartments back to a state where people can live in them.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I think it is.
What's really sad. What's really sad is like if you look at the map, that most of them was low income minority groups that remained without power, like pretty much the whole time.
Oh yeah.
Like it was really sad, and like I live. Sorry, my headphones keep falling out. They're not mine, they're my husband's. So, I apologize. So where I live, I don't live that far from. It's called Independence Heights, and like that's one of the there was the first African American community in Houston, and I can only imagine like what they're going through right now, and it makes me so sad. And like our church is doing stuff and helping out the community, which is really nice, but I don't know. It's just really sad. Like, how can we like stop gentrification and like there's just like a whole thing in Houston that just like it's the like fourth largest city, but like one of the most like segregated cities in like the United States.
It's like that here too. I always paint LA like it's a fun, happy place, and it's really segregated.
Oh yeah, LA has a long history of racism.
Oh, we still do. Like we're still fighting. Like, honestly, we're still fighting the sheriffs. We're
Are there any major cities in the United States that are not heavily segregated? I don't think so.
I want to weigh in on this because
too.
I was a truck driver. I've been in all 48 contiguous states, and I've been in every major city except for Denver, Colorado. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Because does anybody know where truckers deliver in the cities? Mm-hmm. You deliver to the industrial area. Mm-hmm. You know who they put living next to the industrial area? That's where the hood is in every city. Man, I'm telling you, you're not allowed to carry guns on trucks. I used to carry a knife on me because... I had to walk around places 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, and it was pretty scary. I'm not going to lie. Mm-hmm. And it's not just about the color of my skin. It was just all different colors of people in that hood. Yeah. I mean, yes, predominantly black with a lot of Hispanics mixed in if you're in the Northeast or the Southwest. But it's just bad, man. That's what they do. They shove them over there by the industrial areas, and those places go to hell, and they leave them there. And then they don't give a fuck. Because they're on the other side of town in their mansion.
That's why I was
ridiculous. Makes me
sick. I was mentioning my family in Savannah, Georgia. They've been there since Grant gave them that plot of land. That's how long the people with my last name that I have now are still basically within a half a mile of that property. It's turned into a whole area now because Savannah is segregated in general. But having been there, in LA. It's socioeconomic, so it's also by money, but it's also sexuality. Because I could go to West Hollywood and it's Christmas, it's the happiest place on earth over there. But if you go 6 blocks from there, you'll get clipped out if you're not wearing the right colors, Right. So it depends on who you are. And LA is crazy because they'll have a place like the Wilshire District, which Shaq used to live there, and from Shaq's apartment, you can see all of MacArthur Park, all of the Hispanic hood, so
wow.
LA is crazy because it's really nice places surrounded by the hood.
Well, I'm from New York, and it's like outside of like the city that we call Manhattan, and even in the city, it's it's very, very, I mean, it is a melting pot, but there are a lot of, and I'm from Queens, where it is very segregated, and, there were, very, very major incidents of police brutality in New York. Ahmed Diallo, and this was after I moved away, but yeah. It's a very, very ugly history with the NYPD and communities of color, especially the Black community.
Yeah, it's still bad here. They're closing down Men's Central Jail in downtown LA because it's fight school. it's worse than prison. People
Wow.
volunteer to go to prison rather than go to and the sheriffs are worse than the people there, you know. But it's institutionalized because when you walk in, what's the first thing that they tell you, regardless of what your color is? Your 13th Amendment is suspended.
Yeah.
Because when you're arrested, they'll remind you real quick, I can do anything I want to you. You know, and there's some people that take that serious.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel bad in LA. There's some kid that'll go in for a drug charge that needs help, and their life gets changed because they go to county, and you know, it's sad. It's sad. But that's the system that we live in. I actually work with an organization where we reach out to homeless people. It's more about like clothing people and helping people, you know. But it's just things are not good right now. Like, you know, that's why I keep my opinions to myself, because we need to help each other right now. Like, there are people that, you know, in a, you know, nationwide America, pick a country, but we need to help each other right now because it's bad times.
Right. No, it's true. And that's what we were talking about before you came on. You know, as long as the government keeps dividing us, we will never be a big, strong unit, which is why they keep doing it. Because if we stood up against them and said we want changes, we could do it, but we'd have to all be in on it. Everyone would have to say this is enough.
Absolutely.
And not only it's like people said, somebody said, ideal place to live is where everybody agrees. I said, where the fuck are you going to find that?
Nowhere.
That is not going to happen. I mean, I get along with all you people. I love you all to death. You know, but we're not going to agree on everything. It's just not going to happen. Just 6 people. I guarantee you bring up one topic or bring up 5 topics, every single one of them that we'll probably maybe agree on. All of us agree on 1, maybe 2. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So
I lived in a place. Oh, go ahead, Perp.
No, just even when you have these, you know, communities that supposedly everybody agrees, you know, going back to what we were saying about, you know, the people in the churches, it's like they're supposedly all agreeing on things, but they're all judging each other.
Yep. And they're all wrong except for that one church. And that's exactly how it is.
Even within the church, the people are like, you know, that person isn't as righteous as I am.
Oh, I grew up in a church, and still I haven't been affiliated with it for over 20 years. People still talk about me. They still ask my mom, "Oh, when's Godless Soul coming back to church?" And she's like, "Never." I tried. Like, it's awful, you know. I give them respect though. At least they're still trying.
I'm gonna admit I'm a Christian, so like this conversation's kind of funny to me because I feel the same way about some of the things that you just said. But I think it also deals like what type of church you go to. Like, there's a lot of churches that like judge you, or just like I go there and I just don't care what people think of me. If that makes sense.
It's more the in-group, out-group.
That's the best way to be in life. Are you kidding?
Just, like, I do my thing. I do my own thing. I don't really care. Like, I'll help you out. Like, okay, call it a day. But like, if there's like people judging you, then they need to look at their own self and in the mirror, because like we're not perfect.
Yeah, well,
Agreed.
Obviously it's to, you know, different degrees in different churches.
Yeah.
Some of them it's not too bad. Some of them it's real evident.
And even if we take you know, religion out of the equation, if you get a group of people and put them in a room, excuse me, they're going to judge each other. There's in-group, out-group, and like, oh, well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's definitely the human condition.
No matter
Yes,
what,
exactly.
you know,
Argument.
I've experienced that in the atheist community. It's not all love.
You think? Not at all.
I'm
Because
There's a lot of it, but there's a
agree.
lot of
No, but
I was
I
telling
look
her-
at that as an insecurity issue. Like we need mental help in this country. Like, I think
Yes.
everybody needs a psychiatrist, not just, you know,
That's for sure.
every kid needs an IEP. Like, my son has autism. I think every kid should have an individualized plan.
Yes.
Sit down with the teachers, be like, hey, what's going on in little Timmy's life today? You know.
Yep. Isn't that individualized education plan?
Mhm.
Okay, yes. I should just clarify for everybody. That's what I used to date someone who worked in the school system and helped kids that had learning problems. And she would go from classroom to classroom and help them, math or whatever. And she would have to write up IEPs all the time. But you're right. You're right. The time should be taken that each child should have that opportunity. Absolutely.
It just goes back to taking care of each other.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody says that the kids are our future, but they don't want to help them out. It's just like we were talking about reparations. Talking about BLM stuff, talking about reparations, and somebody said, well, even just tuition, give us some money for tuition, so people in the family can grow, because everybody's been held back so far. For so long. And I don't see anything wrong with that. Matter of fact, I think all college should be free up to an associate's degree.
Absolutely.
After that, you should be able to get good enough of a job to work on it on your own. But I think it should be free up to an associate's degree, or like certificates, all that stuff, for like EMTs or whatever. That should all be free. I went to school to be an EMT, and I was in school for a couple months just to become a basic. Cost me $1,000 for 2 months of school to be a basic EMT, where I had a lot to learn still. But you're charging people for that because they want to help.
Yeah,
I feel like that.
Why should nurses be charged? You're charging them to become nurses to help people? What is wrong with you right now?
I have a contractor's license, and you'd be amazed the hoops they make you jump through.
Oh yeah.
And that's okay, because I'm accredited. I have all my paperwork. That's not the issue. It's how many people don't do that and get away with it.
Yeah,
is the issue.
Yep.
Yeah, America. We need a overhaul in America, and they're going to be talking about reparations and I think it's the House. I might be wrong. I heard it on MSNBC, or was it the Senate? I heard them talking about like on Rachel Maddow, but people need help. People need help in this country,
Absolutely.
If I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for my father and my mother. I would not be sitting here if it wasn't for either one of them, because they went out of their way to help me.
That's awesome, man.
And I can't be grateful enough. And I don't think enough people, it's just that little help that saved my life enough so I could do something with myself and then return and help people,
Absolutely.
So just that little boost put me somewhere where I could actually do something and provide for my son. I think people don't realize how important it is to have a roof over your head and be able to provide for yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm all for helping people out.
Absolutely. And it wouldn't really be bad to make that a condition of getting the assistance for, people in general, is okay, I'll give you all this money to go to school, and you go over here and volunteer for so many hours.
Australia has a crazy system.
That wouldn't be a bad idea.
Australia hooks you up. If you live in Australia,
Really?
they hook you up. Oh yeah. They look out for their people to a certain extent, everybody.
Yeah. Well, I've even wondered why corporations don't do something like that about, signing someone to a contract that will put you through school under the agreement that when you have your degree, you work for us for at least 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be fine too.
Most corporate companies offer some type of that, but they only offer a little bit, and that's very few companies.
Yeah, it's usually not enough for most people to really be able to get through school on.
Yeah.
The problem too is a lot of these corporations are on house rules, so they don't want to lose because they're making billions, and they don't want to. Like here in California, you have to make at least $120,000 just to survive. The average person makes 30 to 40 here.
That sounds about right. 30 to 40 is actually pretty high.
Wow.
I've lived in places where the average is like 25 to 30.
We have $15 an hour minimum wage here. But they had to
see, that's why.
Yeah.
That's exactly why. And those places I was talking about, it's like $8.45, $8.25. You just can't live off of that, man. And they're like, they want people. They tell people to go get jobs. Oh, this pisses me off. I'm gonna rant for a second. They tell people to go get jobs. So just go get any job. Okay, so I'm gonna go get. Okay, I don't have a job, right? So I'm gonna go get a job at McDonald's, and now I don't make enough to live off of. But if I'm unemployed, I make more money. What the fuck do you think you're gonna do? How the hell are you gonna ask somebody to go to work every day and make less money than they would off of unemployment? Been there, done that. So you're struggling. You're working 1.5 to 2 jobs, and then the government wants us to be reliant on them. That makes them happy, man. They want people to be on assistance. But then they tell us to go get a job.
Oh yeah.
Or they have like this mentality: if you work hard, you'll be successful, and which is not totally true.
No,
not at all.
I've busted my ass my entire life. I don't have shit.
When I was a kid, I gave my entire 20s to Carl Kutcher Enterprise. It's either Carl's Jr. or Hardee's, depending on what side of the country you live on. And when my tenure was over, they were just kind of like, bye. I got sued twice when someone slipped in my store in Portland, Oregon. They didn't sue the store. They sued me. They got me a lawyer, but basically that company put me out in court. And I just got lucky because I represented the store, And I worked for the corporate, not just an offshoot,
Yeah.
These corporations, they could care less about us. And that's the
they
problem.
don't.
But I'll tell you, that motivated me to go back to school.
Yeah.
In my early 30s, it really motivated me to go back to school because I worked for those people for almost 8 years. And all they do is they give you a bonus check every year that you work there.
And like Spartan's saying that, if you're working at McDonald's or you're working at a low-income job, just trying to make enough to get by every month, you really don't have any chance to improve your skills or go back to class.
At all.
Because then it actually makes you look worse. Nobody wants to see McDonald's on a resume. They're not going to give you a job you worked at McDonald's.
No.
And I've met over my
ridiculous.
years of living I've lived in like 9 or 10 different states now. And I've met somebody at just about every fast food restaurant I've been in that I've got to know any of them. And the people up there with master's degrees and bachelor's degrees. And they're flipping burgers and got a damn headset on trying to pay their bills because they don't want to go get unemployment. They don't want to live off the system. They're trying to be honest people,
The Starbucks by my house, every person I've asked has a college degree. Every single person I've befriended or talked to at 4 in the morning in the bewitching hour, they all have college degrees and they're out there with their coat on, struggling, getting up just like me, working hard,
Yeah, but part of the reason is I'm going to tout Starbucks. They help their people with tuition assistance.
Okay, so they
pay good to start too. I met a girl that worked at Starbucks. I asked her if she wanted a job at my store I was a manager of. And she said, I said, how much do you make? Because I thought, I'm going to bring her over with the money, right? And she's a fucking cashier at a Starbucks. She made more money than I did. I said, you know what? Just stay there. Fuck this place.
And it's the tips. I worked at a Starbucks in West Hollywood, man. I took my tips for granted. We got hooked up.
There's a grocery chain on the East Coast called Wegmans. I got familiar with in New York.
Yep.
And every year for like the last 15 years running, they've been listed in Forbes as one of the 500 best companies to work for because, they will hire the teenagers in high school. And when they graduate, they will give them scholarships for them to go through school and tell them that, if they want to take the appropriate classes, when they come back, they will get them into their manager training programs.
You're speaking of Wegmans, the grocery store chain?
Yeah.
Yes.
They are employee owned, by the way.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, I thought it was a family-owned company, but yeah.
I used to deliver to Wegmans Distribution Center in New York.
I miss them. It's really like the only thing about New York I miss is Wegmans.
There's Wegmans. There's
Wegmans in New York. Where?
Not mad about their life.
Well, not New York
They were
City. I
actually
lived in
decent, nice
Syracuse in the
people.
middle of
Oh,
the state.
okay. Gotcha.
Happy.
There's Wegmans in Wisconsin now, so they're migrating to Minnesota.
There is.
I would like to say
Yes.
the best grocery store is H-E-B. It already was number 1 in the Forbes list. So It's the best. It's best grocery store ever, and it's only
I
in
think
Texas.
I think the best grocery store ever is the Co-op a block away here in Houston, Minnesota, because it's owned by us. It's,
I live
So,
on the
he
West
lost
Coast.
me on that one, but okay.
Everything here is owned by corporations. It's sad. It's sad. Everything in LA is corporate owned, and they go out of their way to. And right now, all the mom and pop places are shutting down because of COVID.
Yep. And that's the other problem I've been having is I wanted to open up my painting company again. I'm in a new area, and most of the painters that are here are like apartment painters. They don't know how to paint, something decent. And then COVID hits. I get here 2 months later, COVID hits. I'm saving up money to start a company. People don't want me in their homes right now to paint. So
I feel you. I own a paint gun. I completely feel you on that one.
Yeah, I'm
my
in the
boss's
same situation.
husband owns a professional, like they do the fancy shit like I want to do painting,
Awesome.
texturing and faux finishing and all that stuff. And he didn't work for 3 months. And now he's off and on working whenever he can. He's working weekends just to get money in. And I'm like, well, if this guy's, he's been here for like 5 or 6 years, and I'm not going to try it right now. Shit, he's established and he doesn't have work, So
So what are you doing now?
there's lots of factors.
What are you doing now?
I work as a maintenance tech at a high-end apartment building. I spend a lot of time vacuuming and shit, but it pays $3.50 more an hour than I made it as a manager. So I push a vacuum for $3.50 more an hour. That's how bad retail is. So yeah,
there's nothing wrong. Nothing wrong with that. I work on.
I mean,
you'll make more money now.
It pays good. They leave me alone. I stick music in my ear and I just go do my shit. Takes like 4 hours to vacuum the whole building. I work there part-time. I do some side work, cash under the table shit the rest of the time, and pays my bills. So
Nothing wrong with that at all.
yeah. Yeah, man.
For the longest time, I was captain side hustle. That's why I own a paint gun. I own a texture gun. I ran out. Once I got my license, I ran out and bought every piece of equipment I can. And it was so I didn't have to rely on other people. That was my thing, was independence.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually need to get a texture gun. You want to send that to me? I'll just buy it off you.
You know what shows? It's in my side shed. It's still in the box because I was gonna move before COVID hit.
Dude.
And it did me a favor. It honestly did me a favor because watching the election showed me all these places I couldn't move to. So
right?
COVID did me a favor because I had to wait an extra year and a half, So I'm actually grateful because there's a whole bunch of places I'm not going to move.
Right. Yeah, no, I get it, man. I saw that red shit, 100% red. I was like, nope, glad I don't live there.
And
my shit's blue over here, man. I'm telling you. I'm good. I'm good where I'm at.
And I'm too mouthy to be token. Like, I speak up. I speak up. It's a thing. Give me one quick second. Ooh, I get to show this one off.
Oh, you're fine.
I'm actually about to head out.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you so much for coming. You're brilliant. You're welcome on any of my streams. If you ever want to come, like whatever you want to talk about, I'll get a group of people together. We'll talk about it. But
Absolutely.
I would like to do a BLM stream here soon. If you're interested, I'll throw you on that list.
Okay,
I'll throw you into my group chat on Twitter with that. Cool.
Okay. Sounds good.
Sweet.
All right. Nice seeing you, meeting you
Very
all.
nice to meet you.
Yeah, have a good night.
It was nice meeting you.
Yeah, same here. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Oh, goodness.
I'm in the same situation that I made my living as a general handyman, going into people's houses and repairing things. And I moved to Minnesota 2 weeks before the first lockdown started. So I had no chance to build the customer base here.
Yeah, I know. You and I were actually talking. We were talking about that on Twitter. It's just you got screwed on it.
Yeah, so I had to fall back to my side hustle of, selling Lego online, which has done all right for me for the past year, but I'm running out of inventory, so that can't last much longer.
Yeah. I'm actually trying to get an at-home customer service online position. I'm just You know, I'm just sick of going to work each day and dealing with some crap. I just want to work by myself. I'm better like that. And because I have standards and not everybody reaches them. So might as well just do my own thing whenever possible. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm just trying to get a work at home job, and I don't have to deal with all the BS, and I don't wear and tear on my vehicle and gas back and forth to work and all the other crap. So
I went to a technical university for computer programming back in the early 80s. You know, so I tried that routine, and I can't work in the office environment.
yeah,
I just can't fit in with the office politics and the people, and it's just
that's why I want to do it from home. I'll be here by myself, and I'm just be talking to customers and shit, and I could totally do that. As long as I'm busy, the day will fly by. I'll be good. I'm ADHD, man. I can't.
Same.
Like, I can't just sit. Seriously, the only reason I survive at work pushing a vacuum for hours is because I have music in my ear. That is the only thing. I just get lost in the music, and it's just repetition, and I don't think about it anymore. And I'm lost in my head thinking about shit, jamming to music. You know,
music helps me in life because I get lost in my. You know, I have old trauma, old tapes I run through my head sometimes, and I just put my headphones on, and you know, it enables me to go on with my day. You know.
Yeah, if people leave me alone,
I'm telling you, Pandora's my shit. It's my lifesaver.
Absolutely.
When I was in Upper Michigan, I wound up doing landscaping. So I, was basically walking around for 8 to 10 hours a day, with earplugs in because I've got the mower or the trimmer. But it's like, once I learn the routine at each location, it's pretty mindless.
Absolutely.
So I wind up doing that, and then that's where I wind up getting my writing from, is that if my brain isn't occupied, I get my characters telling me their stories, and I've got to get home and write them down.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know if I could ever go back to the office and work full time, because I haven't worked in an office since the pandemic hit. And they just decreased my hours and my salary, because it makes me really sad because I work for an oil and gas company. And because Biden put a freeze on leasing in the Gulf of Mexico, that no one can lease blocks to drill or do anything, most of our clientele has gone away. So
wow.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the reason behind it, but it just sucks for me.
Yeah.
It's a catch-22 because we're I'm pro human being, so I'm all for people having jobs, Yeah. But we're destroying our environment too.
We really are, man. And we're not going to stop it. But we could slow it down. And that's what I was going to say is, even when you're doing something good, it's going to have some kind of negative effect. It's just the way it is. Any politician that tries to do anything, even if it's not, we don't deem it as great, they might think, hey, we really need to do this, and they're doing a good thing, and they're trying to think of everybody, and then there's this chunk of people over here in the corner nobody thought about that get affected by it.
Absolutely.
So oh man, I lost my train of thought. Pregnancy brain. Crap. So what my company does is something really cool though, because we are before someone drills a well in the ocean, we have geophys that analyze the data of the ocean floor. So say a jackup rig needs to go up, we analyze where that jackup rig goes to so it doesn't fall down, or it's really safety hazards basically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it's a niche type of thing that most oil companies now, so if say Biden needs more regulations, we probably will what does that person say? If it would be cool if the Republican, see, I have ADD.
No, it's okay. Maya's bringing up an extremely valid point, because you could easily replace certain jobs with clean energy jobs.
That's what I keep telling people.
Because part of what we have to do is clean it up, and who better than the people who did it in the first place? They know they know the job.
Yes. And in the meantime of doing that, you can train them for something new. The
Absolutely.
companies could instill a new training program, because anybody that's into oil and gas, blah blah blah, if they're probably got their hands sticking into wind and solar right now. I hate to tell you guys, they're not
They
stupid.
are.
They know where
Yeah,
we're going. So if
Mhm.
they retrain, they put a training program in place to give their people the basics. They just transfer them into that new place. It wouldn't be hard for them. Nobody, like you said, nobody wants to help anybody.
Well, and it's not like it's an unproven thing. There are countries all over Europe that have already shown these things work.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's funny you say that because I have a cousin who is an electrician, and now he's a solar technician because he wasn't getting paid, and he wasn't getting paid, so he's like, let me go to this other field, and there's lots of sunshine in California, so business is booming. But he went to clean energy.
One of my
Yeah,
best
absolutely.
friends is a electrical engineer, but he's just it's called like a battery engineer, where they make solar panel plants, and he did one in San Jose, California, and it's like one of the biggest ones in the United States. It's really cool. So
There-
the company goes to they have one in New Orleans, California, and it's some in Texas, and it's basically the big, humongous solar panel plant. I don't know.
Yeah, out here you can drive around out here, you'll just see a field full of solar panels there, and then you head down towards Arizona and into Texas, down along the border, and there's windmills and stuff down there
That's what I was
everywhere
gonna
because
say.
they have
That's what I was
all
gonna
that
say.
wind. There's windmills on the top of the hills in Pennsylvania. You see them everywhere now. And so it's not that hard to switch. It wouldn't be that hard to switch over. We've already started the process. The grid's already being worked on, So
Yeah, and just wanted to let you guys know that renewable energy is not the reason why our grid failed in Texas. If you want to know,
No,
everyone keeps saying that. It's so frustrating.
There's a couple of the politicians, and of course the people invested in the oil companies keep pushing it. But yeah, I was watching a whole thing on that last night that they were warned 10 years ago that if they didn't start winterizing their equipment, something like this would happen.
They have like a voluntary regulation type thing, and it just didn't happen. And I was part of the 2011 blackouts when I lived in Austin, and it was bad. It was pretty bad, but it wasn't blackouts. It was literally power outages. They let us be frozen for over 36 hours.
Yeah, I do remember hearing something about that.
The problem in Texas was that Texas, being a Republican stronghold of stupidity, thought that making much more profit off of industries that were deregulated was better than actually caring about their service or the people that needed it. And so in all the deregulation that they did in the last 20 years or so, they absolutely destroyed the system and did not maintain it, did not improve it, and just took profit and more profit and more profit. And this is the end result.
We were actually having a problem here in California as well because the infrastructure was so old. A lot of the wildfires were started by power poles, by Edison, who owns the power up and down all of California. So we have aging infrastructure in this country, and if it's not addressed, it's going to be another problem.
The power grid in this country is absolutely archaic.
Mm-hmm.
And they say that the entire thing needs to be rebuilt. One of the most important things that we need to do for our power grid is to start using what's called distributed generation, where you don't have these major power plants every 100 miles or whatever, but you have small power plants in each neighborhood. Okay, that are producing electricity in greenways and stuff like that, and powering maybe 1,000 homes, 2,000 homes, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So if it goes down, well, you haven't hurt that many people, and because it's smaller, you're able to get it back up and running better, easier, quicker, all this kind of stuff.
Here, when we lose power, it's like 500,000 people are without power. It's bad. It's bad here.
Oh yeah, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible.
It happens all the time.
I have to go. Thank you for having me.
It was nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
Likewise. Nice
Thanks,
meeting you.
Trish.
Bye.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Bye, honey.
Bye.
Let me try that link again. That is not Purple's link.
Oh, I just put my link in there just as you did. I think we hit
Oh,
the
did
key
you?
at the same
Oh,
time.
thank you. Yeah, I
Because they
accidentally
popped up
still
right
had,
together.
Lois copied. Yes, that's Maya's job. She drunk trolls from side chat. Yes, she does.
And that's one thing that makes me so angry is the Fox News narrative. I wish people would get over this us versus them attitude. Just like we're talking right now, the infrastructure is failing. Everybody needs jobs. Everybody needs help. There's lots to be done, and we're all kind of staring at each other.
You mean like the absolute pearl that came out today from Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Oh, what'd she say now?
Well, she's saying that the newly introduced LGBT rights bill that is now in Congress is the death knell of Christianity, and will of course destroy religion and destroy each individual's religious freedom, and that these are people who shouldn't even be allowed to exist. And
as a very open bi atheist, I have to say ha 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 ha.
Yeah,
she's insane. You can't even there's
yeah,
no.
well, if you would you try to hit all the prejudice markers? If you were a woman, you'd have it all down pat.
I think about that all the time. I think about that all the time.
Well, and then we've got the outright conspiracy things that yesterday I was seeing just all these things from Texas about this isn't real snow. It's chemicals that they dumped on us from the chemtrails.
Right.
And people on TikTok trying to show that snowballs don't melt and they're dirty. And it's like, no, you don't understand. Your candle or your lighter is putting soot in the snow. And you don't understand the concept of thermal mass, that's such a small flame that the little amount that melts refreezes again because of the mass of the snowball.
Do you know the most embarrassing thing is that other people in other countries are watching us and they're like, look at these people that are not educated.
Look at these uneducated, dumb-ass motherfuckers who don't have their head from a hole in the ground. Anybody who's ever taken a lighter in their life and used it on anything knows it creates soot. A torch will create soot. Anything that is burns off of some kind of fossil fuel will create soot.
Yeah.
So because
that's why all the energy that we're using is bad.
If you use a lighter to light your farts, your underwear gets stained, and it's just a mess.
That sounds recent. Jenny. That sounds recent.
I would think the underwear stains would put the flame out, but I've never tried it.
That sounds like something you tried last week. I don't judge. I'm fun too. I'm fun. I don't judge. I like to have fun.
Oh my goodness, you guys. That's too funny. No, it's true, man. We have a list. That's part of the problem, I think, in the U.S. We have such a long list of things that we need to fix, and everybody's concerned about, because, of course, we all have an agenda. We all have, people say, oh, you have an agenda. Well, yeah, we all have things that we're trying to strive towards or things we think should happen. So you have let's say you got 5 million people, and they each have there's 5 categories. That's only 1 million people working on it.
Well, I think the worst problem is that most people see it as a zero-sum game. Most people see it as the zero-sum game, that they don't understand that you can give someone else rights without it taking anything away from you.
Well, that's exactly it with this Marjorie Taylor Greene's talk. You read her official tweets and stuff like that, and that's exactly the mindset that she has. That if you do this, I'm going to lose rights. And it's like, duh, no, you'll gain rights when you become a lesbian.
She's a perfect example. She's a perfect example of uneducated, self-hating, finger-pointing.
Yeah.
Just projecting. She's such a
Yeah.
she hurt. I can't follow her on Twitter. I don't watch her on the news because she's bad for my blood pressure.
Yeah, I don't either. I just wind up seeing her when it comes up online. But, you know, these people can't seem to get the idea that, you know, if you will allow gay marriage and you give trans people rights, it does not change your life at all. You can go on living your life the way you've always done it, and nothing will be changed.
They just can't openly be bigots to people. I think a lot of what people are trying to defend is their own idiocy. They want to be able to walk up to somebody and be like, I don't like you because of your color, the way you're dressed, because of your hair, because of your sexuality. And it's just, you can't do that anymore. In modern society, you should just leave people alone, you know?
Yeah,
I don't care if people do that. Just keep it out of my government.
Yeah, that's what Maya just said. I think some people don't want other people to have rights, whether it affects them or not. And yeah, a lot of people, they feel they need to be superior to someone else.
I don't understand. You know, I have the quest of wanting to be left alone sometimes.
Yeah.
So people that need that much attention to have to stand over people and be like, oh, I'm above you. It's just, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Well, like I say, for me, it's just a matter of, okay, is this going to change anything that I'm going to do in the next 10 years? No? Okay, fine. Let it be.
And helping people out, putting people in better situations, like that's part of one of the organizations I work with. Besides just clothing people, they also help house people, you know. Let's all, you know, let's help each other out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely
if Jesus
agree with
came
that.
back today, they would not want to deal with him at all. Jesus was a socialist hippie.
Oh, that's why PragerU has me so angry.
He was a person of color. Socialist hippie.
Well, yes, that too. But yes.
So that's one thing I do watch to get my blood pressure up is fundy Christians every once in a while. And they're on this thing of Jesus was white, no matter what you say, because it fits their controlling narrative.
Oh.
And it's at this point, it's just sad.
They really do?
There's I don't even want to shout them out, but there's these group of people I watch, and I kind of respect them because they did, when everything happened with George Floyd, this Christian organization came out and said, hey, this is wrong. We stand with people of color. So I kind of respect this group, but they're batshit insane in any other aspect because they're evangelical Christians. But they and then they'll have this woman who is of obvious African ancestry, but she's come to America. She says it too. So when I feel like pissing myself off, I watch their videos because I'm like, man, why are you doing this to yourself?
It's crazy, isn't it? That, you know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of years ago when I lived in Virginia. I had a black couple give me a dirty look because I was with my girlfriend. We were holding hands.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, God's against that. And I'm like, really? Of all people to be prejudiced? Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
You live in Virginia. Like, it's the borderline of the South.
I agree.
And you have been treated like shit, and you're prejudiced against somebody because of...
That's something
okay.
that's something I still, that's why I'm openly out about being bi, because we still have to fight it in certain communities, and I speak Spanish fluently. So it's not just in the black community, because as far as well, I can only speak for like the Mexican community that I grew up and around. It's because of Catholicism. It's because of Catholicism. Somebody told them that this is wrong, and a lot of those people remain closeted like their whole life out of just self-hatred because the church told them to.
Yep,
you know? You're
going to go to hell. Yep, that's what they tell them.
I still have people ask me in my family, like, aren't you scared of hell? And I'm like, no. I'm more scared of what you're going to do to me than what anything is, I'm more, so it's funny that way.
Quite honestly, I'm more scared that if they're right, I might get into heaven. I think I can tolerate eternal torture much better than I could tolerate eternal boredom.
It's just you're standing there, like Bob Marley kind of said it the best. You're just high, staring at God. Like what is that? Like you're just
No, like,
you're just like, oh, I'm high, and you're great. Like what are you doing the whole time?
literally, the Viking version of hell, Helheim, where the unworthy go, was described as being nothing but a featureless ice sheet as far as you could see. That it was described as being an eternity of mind-numbing boredom. To the Vikings, that was the worst hell they could imagine.
I'm obsessed with hockey. It's on the TV above my head. That would be heaven for me. If I could skate, I love ice skating. If I could just skate on an endless lake, that would be awesome. Oh, that's funny. That goes back to one person's hell is another person's heaven.
Yeah,
it's true.
That's so funny.
It's true. I know people that will not leave the city. They want to live in the city. They like the crowds. They like the bustle. They like the noise. Me, I want to stay away from it. I don't like it. I don't want it. I'm in the biggest city I want to live in, and I'm all the way down on the edge of it. I'm almost not living in it. You know.
It's like my neighborhood.
How big is your city?
That's a good question. Go ahead, Will. I'll tell you in a second.
Even though I live in LA, LA has 10 million people. I live on the outskirts. It's quiet here. It's like wave to your neighbor kind of quiet here.
Right. 151,552.
Ooh, that's big.
That reminds me.
Ooh,
This is as big as I'll go, and it doesn't even feel big because of where I live. If you drove through here, you'd understand.
I'll be right back.
Have you got Google Maps? Do you?
Do I have? Oh, do I? Yeah.
Go type into it, search for Houston, Minnesota.
Wow, 18,000. That sounds like heaven.
What? No. That's not correct.
Oh, hold on. That was county.
Yeah, that's Houston County. Although I didn't know that number, so that's interesting.
1,033.
Oh, we're up that high now? I guess they counted me.
Well, that's as of 2019.
Yeah, I wasn't where you gotten up to 1,000 down there.
Yeah, we're 1,033.
2010, there was 979 people.
Okay, and if you look at the picture from the satellite, end to end, that town is a half a mile.
That's it.
Yep, that's it.
I see it.
And it's just freaking wonderful. It's so quiet.
Nice.
Today, we had 8 inches of snow. They came in, they plowed the road, and then they wait for the residents to get out and move their cars. And they know that I have trouble getting out and taking care of that because I'm so old and disabled and shit. And so they special come by in the afternoon after they've plowed everything else, and they come back and plow the area where my car was parked.
Nice.
That's small town America. It's
absolutely. I used to live. We used to live out in the country, about 30 minutes from a very small town, probably about that size. And if there was 3,000 people, I'd be surprised. And I got caught driving my mom's car by the local cop, and he knew I didn't have a license. He knew how old I was. And he was like, "What are you doing?" Mom's up at the college, and I just drove down here to get some groceries, and then I'm going to go meet her. And you're going to drive careful? Yes, sir. Good. I'll make sure I talk to your mother about this. Yes, sir, you will. Like I got in trouble as a kid, and the cops came down to give me a scare, and they just called my mom and said, "Hey, we're going to scare the shit out of one of your kids. You want to come down and help us?" And she was like, "I'll be there in a minute." Yeah.
Even in my town, when I was a kid, on mushrooms, back before this is pre-internet, we were dumb. Right. Gosh, this was 20-something years ago. I jumped on the hood of a cop car, Cops put me on the curb. They looked at me and they were like, "You're too much paperwork. Go home." Nowadays, and everybody I was with was on mushrooms. My cousin still tells me that was one of the scariest moments of his life.
That's the scariest moment. I remember some friends getting busted by cops and they caught us walking down the street and it was late. So he stopped and started like questioning us, "What are you doing?" You know, I think I was like 15.
Yeah.
And one of them had pot and the cop talked him into like emptying their pockets out and stuff. And he just dumped it in the water by the edge of the road. There was a puddle there. He dumped it in the water and he stepped on it and said, "Get the hell out of here. Go home before I call your parents." Like that was it.
You know what's so funny? They would even do that now, and now the police have been militarized. Like they put 17-year-olds in jail now.
Yeah.
Yeah, over like a couple joints worth of weed. Like seriously. Oh, you could have been selling it was more than one joint worth.
And they have it got so bad here in LA that the sheriffs are not allowed to talk to minors. They
Really?
have, if they bust a minor, they have to call a number with a child advocate lawyer because because they've treated our kids so terribly that people were like, "You can't be around our minors anymore unless they're on fire, unless something bad is happening, unless they're shooting at people." Like, there's actual rules to, it's bad here.
Rules of engagement, so to speak. Yeah.
But when I was a kid, it was more like we drank a lot. When I was a kid, it was like, "Oh, that's what kids do." Everybody smokes cigarettes. Some people picked it up. Some people left it. Some people are still smoking,
Right.
But now it seems like is it me, or do you guys think it's because of the internet that everything's more amplified?
Oh, no, I know it's due to modern technology.
Yeah, well,
Absolutely.
because it used to be you only knew what happened in your local area, maybe in your county.
Now
on the internet, you find out what's happening everywhere in the world.
Yep. So now kids have access to everything. They just hear something and they Google it. And then that starts a whole new process. Yeah.
Well, I mean, especially for me at my age, I grew up in the 70s. So it's like, home computers didn't exist until I was, done with school and everything.
I was the last generation to not have computers in the classroom. We were still fighting each other and still acting like crazy people.
Well, even when I went to the Technical Institute, we were learning on the paper punch cards at first. We were the very first class at that school to use the desktop editors that used an 8-inch floppy disk.
I miss those things.
And that was the brand new technology when I was in school.
When I was in the Army, I used to spend one day a week sitting in a trailer that had a big, huge computer in it that was as powerful as the old flip phones. And it was a huge computer. And it just took information off of one reel and put it on another reel so we could mail that reel. And that was our inventory order list for the Army. And you just sit there and listen to it whir. And when it goes, you turn around and fix it. And then you hit go again. It would jam up.
Will and B, you'll probably like this too. When I was in college and I was taking chemistry, one of the reasons I did so badly is because of math. I'm just awful at math. We were not allowed to use calculators because they were so expensive. Not everybody could afford one, and it would be unfair.
Same thing in my day.
Wait a minute. The calculators they're talking about cost about $150 or so. Ran on a 9-volt battery and wouldn't last how long it took to take an exam, and were for function. plus minus divided multiply. That's it.
Yeah, right. Yep.
I might still have my old Texas Instrument
scientific calculator.
Oh, they hadn't even opened. That company wasn't even established.
As a junk collector, I would be shamed if I didn't have my old TI.
When I was in high school, right here. When I was in high school, I kept trying to sign up for a typing course. And my guidance counselor kept taking it off my schedule saying, "That's a girl's course. What does a boy need typing for?" So if I
Oh.
ever find this man, I will strangle him with a keyboard cable.
At least hit him over the head with a keyboard like a wrestler, like Hacksaw Jim Duggins or something, you know.
Oh my goodness.
You
All
know,
right,
we're-
you beautiful people. What do you think? Are we done?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've solved the world
Sure.
problem.
We swayed so far off the subject. It's beyond a sway at this point. We walked to the next state over. So
Yeah, we're just into pointless rambling here.
yeah, really. All right. Well, I'm going to get off here. I haven't eaten dinner yet, so I'm going to do that. And thank you guys for coming. I appreciate all of you. Thank you, everybody in the chat.
I went upstairs and got my dinner from Sloth Girl, but then I jumped on here, so I haven't had a chance to eat it yet.
Oh yeah, see, that's good timing then.
Biggest
There you
drug
go.
dealers in America, Girl Scout
Right?
cookies.
Yes.
Biggest
Yes.
drug
They
dealers
suck
in
you
America.
right in. You buy lots of boxes, and it's legal.
Oh
Yeah.
most brilliant marketing. In
Yeah.
Colorado, after they legalized it, a couple of girls set up their table right in front of the dispensary.
Yeah,
and they
you told me
completely
about that
sold
for a
out in hours.
Oh, they do it here too. They do it here too. Smart.
Fucking great. But yeah, thanks everybody coming. Geo, better late than never. All you wonderful people in the chat, thanks a lot, guys. And everybody
Yeah.
have a good evening.
Good night, chat.
Be good to each other and go with peace. And we'll see y'all later. Maybe next time. Maybe next week.
Okay. Good night, all.